The air was thick with the scent of blooming jasmine on a crisp autumn afternoon in Willow Creek, a sleepy little town nestled in the rolling hills of Northern California. It was October 2023, and I, Daniel Harper, a 47-year-old handyman who'd spent years fixing leaks and patching roofs for folks around here, thought I knew every quirk of this place. I'd moved to Willow Creek a decade ago, drawn by its promise of quiet streets and friendly faces. But nothing could have prepared me for the storm that was about to turn our idyllic neighborhood into a battlefield of betrayal, corruption, and raw, unfiltered justice. It all started innocently enough. My neighbor, Ellen Carter, a warm-hearted woman in her late 40s who always shared her homegrown tomatoes, had a problem. Her backyard sprinkler system was on its last legs, the pump wheezing like an old dog. The replacement part was a week out, and her prized rose garden was wilting in the fall heat. I grabbed my toolbox and headed over, rigging a temporary fix with an extension cord from my garage to power a backup pump. It was tidy, safe, tucked along the grass, no fuss, no muss. In a normal world, this would have been a neighborly act, forgotten by dinner time. But Willow Creek's Homeowners Association wasn't run by normal people. I was testing the water flow when heavy boots crunched behind me. Turning, I saw Victor Ramsey, the HOA's self-styled chief of security, striding across the lawn in a cheap tactical vest that screamed discount store. Victor, a burly 55-year-old ex-cop who'd left the force under a cloud of rumors, carried himself like he still had a badge. 6'3", with a buzz cut barely hiding his graying scalp, he had a scowl that could curdle milk. Without a word, he marched to the outlet, ripped my cord out with a vicious yank, and sent a shower of sparks flying. The crackle of burning wires filled the air, and Ellen gasped as the outlet smoked. Victor, unfazed, slapped a pre-written violation notice into my hand with a smirk. "You're breaking half a dozen HOA rules, Harper electrical hazards, property damage, you name it," he growled, then sauntered off like he'd just busted a drug ring. I stood there, stunned, clutching the yellow paper. It wasn't just the fine $2.50 for endangering community safety that burned me. It was the feeling that Victor had been waiting for this, like he'd been watching me. 2 days later, a letter from HOA President Lillian Voss arrived, upping the fine to $400 and including a photo of my cord, photoshopped to look like a massive cable choking the entire lawn. It was laughably fake, but the threat was real. As I read it in my driveway, I noticed something new. A security camera on the streetlight across from my house, its lens glinting like a predator's eye. I'd lived here 10 years and knew every pole and wire. That camera was brand new, and it was aimed right at me. The harassment didn't stop there. Lillian, a control freak with a knack for twisting rules, sent another letter demanding I remove my solar panels installed 7 years ago, fully permitted, and sleek as they come, claiming they ruined the neighborhood's aesthetic and were potentially hazardous. The kicker? A $600 daily fine until I complied. These panels had powered my home flawlessly, and half the block had similar setups. But Lillian wasn't asking. She was ordering, with Victor prowling my street, snapping photos of my car, my mailbox, even my shrubs, like he was building a case for the FBI. One night, I tested my suspicions. At 10 p.m., I took a walk around the block to clear my head. Sure enough, Victor's black SUV crept behind me, headlights dim. He circled 3 times, slowing to a crawl, his window down so I could see his smug face. The camera on the streetlight blinked red, and I swear I heard the click of a shutter. My pulse raced not from fear, but from the realization I was being hunted in my own neighborhood. My daughter, Claire, 27 and sharp as a tack, came home that night and saw me fuming over Lillian's latest threat. She studied the letter, then fixed me with a look that was all business. "Dad, you need to record everything, every word, every move they make. Get hidden cameras, ones they can't spot." Her tone wasn't just advice, it was strategy, like she'd seen this game before. Trust me, evidence is how you beat bullies like this. I didn't question her. The next day, I bought discrete cameras and a high-powered laser pointer. That night, I aimed the laser at the HOA's camera, its red beam blinding the lens in a defiant middle finger. I recorded it all, my own private rebellion. I also called on George Ellison, a 72-year-old retired attorney next door who knew property law like the back of his hand. Over coffee, George dissected the HOA bylaws, showing me how Lillian and Victor were breaking their own rules. "This isn't just petty, Daniel," he said. "It's illegal. They can't invent fines or target you without process." He pointed out clauses protecting my solar panels and requiring transparent fines, none of which Lillian followed. As we finished, my phone pinged with an anonymous email. "Check the HOA's books. The money's disappearing." My gut twisted. This wasn't just about me anymore. I followed George's advice, filing a formal complaint with proof of delivery. I thought playing by the rules might calm things down. I was dead wrong. Lillian doubled down, calling a secret safety meeting with her loyalists to smear me as a deranged threat to Willow Creek. Ellen, invited by mistake, told me Lillian painted me as a violent loner, using my reckless cord as proof. It was slander, pure and simple, but they weren't done. The real line was crossed one chilly Thursday evening when Claire drove home from work. At the community gate, Victor stepped from the shadows, flagging her down. Claire, cool-headed, showed her ID when he demanded proof of residency, a pointless power play. But as she reached for her purse, Victor drew what looked like a handgun, its barrel inches from her face. A blinding tactical flashlight hit her eyes, and he snarled, "You and your dad better stop stirring trouble, or you'll both regret it. I promise you won't like what's coming." What Victor didn't know was Claire's car had a high-def dash cam, capturing every second in crystal-clear video and audio. When Claire showed me the footage, rage boiled in my chest like nothing I'd ever felt. Seeing that gunner, whatever it was, pointed at my daughter's face shattered something in me. I wasn't just a handyman anymore. I was a father ready to burn it all down. Claire hugged me, then said, "Dad, I haven't been straight about my job. I can't say much, but trust me, his is bigger than you think. Keep gathering evidence." Her eyes were steel, and I nodded, knowing we were in this together. That night, I dove into the anonymous tip. I demanded 2 years of HOA financials, and when Lillian stonewalled, George sent a legal letter forcing her hand. The records arrived, and buried in the mundane was a $20,000 charge for new community signage. Except there were no new signs anywhere. I'd walked these streets for years. I'd have noticed. This was theft, plain as day. I set a trap, inviting Lillian to my house to talk peace. She took the bait, strutting in like a queen, unaware of the hidden cameras I'd rigged. For 40 minutes, she lectured me on community hierarchy, dismissing Victor's threats and my concerns. When I mentioned the $20,000, her face paled. She stammered about preliminary designs, but her lies unraveled on tape, every word damning. I shared the recording with George, who grinned like a kid at Christmas. "Daniel, you've got her. Embezzlement, fraud, this is a prosecutor's dream." He'd found more: fake vendor contracts, inflated expenses, kickbacks. The signage was just the start. That weekend, I plastered the truth on the community board: financial records, a clear summary, and a bold headline: "Your money's been stolen, read this." By noon, neighbors swarmed the board, snapping photos, fury spreading like wildfire. Then, the jackpot. Victor, drunk and sloppy, bragged to a neighbor about his cut of the sign money that never existed. I'd tipped off trusted residents to record him, and his slurred confession was pure gold. The neighborhood demanded an emergency meeting, and Lillian, delusional, agreed, thinking she could spin it. The community center was packed, the air electric with anger. Lillian tried to control the room, but her polished suit couldn't hide her panic. I stood, presenting my evidence: Victor's drunken confession, the fake photo, Lillian's recorded lies, and Claire's dashcam footage. The crowd gasped at Victor's gun-waving threat, erupting in shouts for justice. Lillian screamed about deep fakes and conspiracies, but the room laughed harsh, mocking laughter that stripped her bare. Victor, cornered, slammed his fist against the wall, but the crowd wasn't scared anymore. Then, the doors crashed open. 2 cops stormed in, followed by 3 suits radiating authority. My jaw dropped as I saw Claire, hair in a tight ponytail, leading the pack. She flashed an FBI badge, her voice cutting through the chaos. "I'm Special Agent Claire Harper, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Victor Ramsey is under investigation for civil rights violations, extortion, and criminal misconduct. His threat against me, recorded here, seals his fate." She nodded at the screen, where Victor's face loomed. Lillian Voss faces charges for embezzlement, wire fraud, and fiduciary abuse. This HOA's corruption ends tonight. The room froze as cops cuffed Victor, who tried to bolt but crumpled under their weight. Lillian wailed, denying everything, but her cries faded as agents led her away in cuffs. Cheers exploded, a wave of relief and triumph washing over us. Justice wasn't just served, it was a spectacle. The fallout was swift. Claire's testimony, backed by my evidence, buried Victor and Lillian. Victor faced extra charges for threatening a federal agent. Lillian's theft topped $90,000. George, now HOA president, brought transparency, open books, community votes, and an audit to recover stolen funds. We celebrated by smashing the old HOA sign, a gaudy relic of Lillian's ego. I swung the sledgehammer, and as plastic shards flew, the crowd roared, free at last. Ellen gave me a carved plaque. Neighbors, not rulers. It sits on my mantle now, next to photos of Claire, who I learned had been tracking Victor's crimes since his cop days. My fight gave her the evidence to close a federal case. As I sit in my backyard, solar panels humming, I wave at the old camera now, just a husk. Willow Creek is ours again, run by folks who care, not control. But here's where it gets messy. Was Lillian just greedy, or was someone higher pulling strings? Did Victor's past protect him too long? And Claire, how much did she know from the start? Share your wildest theories below, and tell me, what's the shadiest thing your HOA's pulled? Could you take down a corrupt board, or would you play their game? Like, comment, and subscribe. You're just getting started.